This one's kind of a big one. I assume you guys heard about the tragedy in Mexico where there was 4 Americans who came from North Carolina. They were driving to Matamoros, Mexico.
Yeah.
And pretty soon after they went across the border, their car was ambushed by the cartel. Seemingly out of nowhere, their car was shot. The 4 people were pulled out of the car. They were thrown into the back of a pickup. There was, this crazy, video that was shown. And so it's brought up in the news the dangers of medical tourism. And there's a picture of their vehicle that was crashed after they were attacked. And 2 of the people end up dying. The other 2 have been returned back to the United States. I did a bunch of media reviews. I took a couple clips. I took a clip from just a tiny part of what I did with Fox News, one from Washington Post. I was just gonna roll it just, for the fun of it, just to kind of show some of the stuff that I did. Hey, can you roll that video, Joe?
What is this phenomenon, especially among some Americans who do travel to Mexico to get plastic surgeries, known as medical tourism? Let's talk about this even further. Dr. Bruce Hermann joining us right now. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon. Dr. Hermann, thanks for being with us. Yeah. Just lastly, doctor, do you think this will deter Americans, this story, from seeking this out, or is it going to be kind of carte blanche, as you say?
Well, this is something that I'm very passionate about. I see so many patients that have been injured from medical tourism. I've been talking about this for quite some time. I have a talk show that I do every Friday to warn people about certain things in medicine. I talk about this all the time, and I hate that this tragedy has brought this to the news, but I'm hoping that people will see this and think twice before they seek out medical tourism, which might cost them complications or possibly even their lives.
Dr. Bruce Hermann, we appreciate your time and your insight. We'll definitely be speaking again. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Hopefully, you'll come back safe.
But not everyone does. The 4 Americans were kidnapped right here on a busy street in broad daylight. But doctors stress kidnapping isn't the only problem that can come up.
Outside of the country, you have no idea about the certification of the doctor, the facility, and all of these things which are designed to keep you safe. And yes, you can save some money by going out of the country to get surgery. But if you have a complication, suddenly all of that savings is gone. And I've seen people die from going outside of the country for surgery. It's just, to me, it's not worth your health or your life to save a few dollars. Anyway, thought that those were pretty cool. I ended up doing like 7 or 8 interviews that day. Those were kind of the two biggest ones. But so what I want to talk about today is not necessarily the cartel stuff, because realistically, kidnapping and murder should not be high on the list of risks of medical tourism. But as we've kind of danced around in a couple of segments before, I do feel strongly against medical tourism. And so I just kind of want to go over those things about medical tourism that make it somewhat dangerous for the consumer. And so the first thing that you might talk about is, why do people do it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it all boils down to money. Just like jobs have gotten outsourced to, third world countries, the same thing's happening with plastic surgery. You can do business cheaper in countries like Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and Costa Rica, which are 3 of the big ones where this kind of stuff happens. And so people want to save some dollars on their surgeries, and they seek out these medical tourism spots. The problem I have is that the savings are not so dramatic. It's around 40, maybe up to 50%, which I know that's a huge discount. For example, a surgery that might cost $8,000 in the United States would run something like $4,500, in Mexico. Mm-hmm. But you have to calculate your travel costs, either driving, fuel for your car, plane ticket, hotel stay,
your life.
Well, yeah, right. And then the cost really goes through the roof if you have problems.
Yeah.
That's where it gets ridiculous as far as the savings just being completely gone, or you paying multiple times more. But the other things you can think about is well, first off, you should break medical tourism into 2 things. One, medical tourism within the United States. Okay, and medical tourism abroad. And so firstly, with medical tourism within the United States, and this is something I know we've talked about, at least as like in bits of segments, is like those plastic surgery mills. Where's the big place for them?
Florida.
Florida, yeah,
Oh,
man, they are
right,
so popular in Florida. So in Florida, and they do this in other states, but it seems to be very popular in Florida, is these companies will buy a clinic and they do a lot of advertising. They offer very, very cheap surgery to get patients in the door, and they seek out people for medical tourism. And the way that they do it is they get surgeons who are not very busy, who are willing to do surgery for a fraction of the cost just to be able to fill their day. And so there's multiple problems with this. One, the preoperative consult is really kind of scaled down. Like when people come to my office, I talk with them in a lot of detail, go over all their concerns, their desires, do their exam, and formulate a plan specific for each patient. And that does take time and expertise. I don't feel like my nurse, even who's very sharp, could do it as well as I do, and she sees me do it all the time. So I feel like the preoperative consults these surgery mills are giving people are inadequate, and that just hurts the doctor-patient relationship. And when you look at malpractice cases, one of the biggest thing listed for why the malpractice suit was filed was poor communication between the patient and the doctor.
Yeah.
And so when you have that, I just think that your outcomes are more likely to be unfavorable. So then, of course, you have to question the surgeons doing it. I mean, and everyone starts out fresh, I get that, but I mean, a lot of these people are either fresh out of training or potentially doctors who are having issues keeping their own practice going, which begs the question of why is that?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of question about the doctors. When you go to these facilities, they don't have the doctors listed out. You know, you go to my webpage or webpage of other surgeons in town, it will say, this is Dr. So-and-so, went to these schools, these training programs, these certifications.
Right.
I mean, they don't have that at these other places. And then probably the biggest thing for me, well, I don't know, they're all kind of equal, but another really big point is the post-operative care. You know, when you travel to somewhere like Miami to get plastic surgery, you're there for like 1 or 2 days and then you go home. Well, the complications generally don't happen in the first day or two. If they do, that's purely a surgical error. But real complications, things like infection or wound healing issues, tend to happen later.
Yeah.
So what happens, these patients have surgery, they get sent home, and then they start to have a complication, and they don't have anywhere to go.
I feel like it's like common sense. Like if you made something, you're gonna know how to fix it if it fails, you know? So.
Well, and plus people don't want to deal with the complications. I mean, I do, because I feel bad. I literally, the day I was doing those interviews, Tuesday, I got a call from the hospital. We got a patient, they got a tummy tuck in Mexico, and they have a bad infection. Can you see him? I mean, I didn't have to take it. I'm not required to take call at that. I could have said no, but I just feel bad for people. But, and then I'm just kind of like jumping on a live grenade here. I mean, this is a mess that I'm
that you didn't
inheriting.
Yeah, you don't even
that
know
person got like
what could what could have happened.
Right. You don't know exactly what was done. You hope that the procedure was done similarly to how you might do it, but you don't know that. So I do have a lot of issues with people even going within the United States for surgery. And even myself, I don't want to say I push patients away when they ask me, because I do get people inquiring, but I just go into a lot of detail of my concerns, and I make them promise that they're going to be in the area for a certain amount of time, and I almost make it inhibitory for them to want to do it. But then if they do all that, I'll do it. And I literally just did a surgery on a girl that lives probably 4 or 5 hours away, and it's gone fine, but she was amenable to my request in order to do that. So
Yeah.
now.